Hello everyone! I wanted to create a 12 by 12 layout using the beautiful, lovely garden paper collection. I've kind of spread them out right here across. It's hard to fit them all in one shot because there's so many papers in this collection. Just to show that it's a very diverse paper collection. When I first saw it, I wasn't sure if I was a fan of the bigger, bolder patterns. But when you see it in real life, it's so beautiful. The colors are really pretty. And then I do love how there's a lot of different patterns in this paper set. So a lot of more neutral patterns that you could then mix match with the more busier patterns. And I think this is a very diverse set, but the colors still work together beautifully. And the papers I wanted to document today were a bike ride that me and my fiance took in Savannah or Hilton Head, and I was wearing this quite vibrant yellow top, and I don't know why, but it immediately made me think of this paper in the paper pack, and I really wanted to use it because there was a lot of beautiful green palm trees and the Spanish moss, and I feel like this would just work together with the pictures really well. Since I didn't have a lot of pictures, I think just one 12 by 12, so just one page would probably work best. So I'm just going to scooch everything to the side, and then we can go ahead and look how we want to style the paper or how we want to lay it out on the page to start our single page spread. So I was looking through the paper pack some more, and I definitely wanted to use this beautiful green pattern flower paper, and you can see, or I hope you can see, that there's all these yellow accents running throughout the little white flowers. So I thought that would pair beautifully with the picture I just showed. I'm definitely somebody that tries to incorporate some of the colors from my pictures in my paper. That doesn't always work, but for me it also just helps inspire me to combine the pictures with the paper, and it helps just to give me an idea of what I want to do. I do really like this grid style, just simple black and white paper, but I'm not too sure I love it combined with this more elegant flowery paper. But I'm going to take a look into the other papers. I think these bolder patterns are just a bit too much with the smaller flower patterns, so I'm going to put these to the side. And then I think the green as well as this yellow paper is just a little bit too much of the same tone. We could add a little element of that in there. I don't want to incorporate the pink, I don't think. I was actually thinking it would kind of look cute because I do have this pink bag, I'm just realizing, but it doesn't have to be so literal, of course. So I might just put this to the side too, even though I actually kind of like the contrasting colors. So I'm just going to hold on to that one. And then I feel like this is just too much a similar pattern. So I'm going to put these aside, as these are just going to be kind of like my first options of paper I want to work with. And then I was kind of rummaging through the rest of my papers, and there's a couple of papers in the Floral Delights paper pack that I actually really like because it also has a lot of that yellow tones and greens. And the specific papers I took out were ones I've already started using for another project, and is this beautiful yellow gingham print, and then this kind of woodsy, more neutral wood grain pattern, which could be great just to kind of offset some of the patterns that we have in the more busier paper. So I'm going to just take all these together and put all this to the side. And since we're working with just like a single layout, I don't want this to be too busy. So I'm just going to take some white paper cardstock from, I think this is actually just from Hobby Lobby. And I'm definitely going to use this. And I was thinking I want to maybe create like a little border sticking out because I really like the combination of these two together. So I'm gonna just kind of put that down here. Not too sure yet. And then I think because this is already a somewhat grid style, I feel like incorporating this is just a bit too much. So I'm gonna put this to the side, and then we either have the pink or this wood grain. I think the pink, if I were to incorporate it, it would just be for like a little accent because of just that little pop of color in the picture. But I think it's not really what I want to go with in terms of color scheme for this layout. So I'm just going to put this to the side, but I definitely do want to use this. And I think I might have this as a larger paper photo mat. So this is the photo that I printed. Sorry for the glare, I'm just going to hold up like this. And I might just actually keep it within this layout style. So I use the Epson PM400 printer and then just the pick frame app, and it kind of just puts it together. You determine, or you choose your template, and then it prints it off. And normally I just cut this out and leave a little border. I probably will need to mat this because I see I didn't actually add the border everywhere, but I'm not sure. Maybe I want to keep this just in the same layout, but I'm gonna see about that, because the other thing I was thinking of is creating, so having this as like a focal point and then creating maybe like a ducktail, but like a larger photo mat ducktail. So I'm gonna see how I'm gonna incorporate that. I'm gonna just put this to the side. And then something else I was kind of looking through my stash is I really do want to incorporate some of this glitter. Now, I don't really love this glitter strip because, as you can see, it's not opaque, so it lets the color bleed through from underneath. I did also find some older close to my heart glitter strip. This is in the color green, and this is opaque, so we could like either central it around the green or bring back more of that yellow, but then I would probably first mat it and then just cut it out, because I don't like how that bleeds through. But I do really want to add that in just because it was, you know, it was a vacation, it was tropical, and I feel like that just fits the page. So I'm going to go ahead and I just want to see if I scooch these over. I might actually do it so it comes out, so there's like a bigger yellow strip, and then we have this on top as like, because I just really love the pattern of this. And then I'm either going to have this as a larger piece or much larger, and then just have this coming across like that. And I don't think I'm going to ducktail it. I don't like it when it's just like a huge ducktail like that. But I think what I am going to add is a border, so there's like a little bit of intrigue to the piece I cut out. So let me just go ahead and already start cutting up this piece. Let me take my cutting machine. Okay, pick this up. And I think I definitely want a large enough piece so that I have a large strip of that. Let me turn around so there's no glare. So I want this right over here, and then I want like a large piece of the green. So I actually think I want about 6 inches of this yellow piece. Let me see if this is actually 6 inches right here. No, it is not. I think I will take this side. Yeah. So I'm gonna just take my cutter and then put this at 6 inches. And I have a nice strip here, and then cut this down. Hopefully that piece was straight. Oh well, we'll see. And then I'm just gonna move that up 6 inches. Should be where this cuts. There you go. So that's that piece that I'm going to put right here. I'm debating if I want to mat this as well. This might be, and I think if I bring in the yellow, it might be a little bit too much yellow. I don't have the corresponding Stampin' Up color. I do still have quite a lot of close to my heart. So let me see. I guess this is just honey butter. If I like that, I do want to take the lighter side. This might just be too much yellow because we have the paper going all the way to the top. And then having this piece coming across. I do like it, but I think, let me see with a green color if that would look nicer. Okay, so I found this honey butter, but I also found some pine paper because I was holding up this mat against everything and I don't know if I want quite as much yellow, or like I think this would be fine, but I do want to introduce some of this shimmer and I feel like then it's just too much. And I feel like the pine, so the lighter side of the pine, this is close to my heart paper. This is retired now. I'm just kind of using up what I have. And I feel like this creates a really nice contrast. So I'll just hold this up. So I think I'm gonna go for this because then with the added shimmer as like a little border, I think that would look really pretty. So let me go ahead and just, I'm going to, because I want enough of the yellow showing, so I'm going to cut out, I think I'm going to start with, just like a 5-inch strip, and I always can take off a little more if I feel like more of the yellow should show. And then see, and I'm also going to mat it against this pine paper and stick everything down and come back, and then we can see where we're at to add our pictures or our photos in our embellishments. Okay, I've gone ahead and matted my paper against the lighter side of the pine cardstock. I did gut out the middle section just to save as much paper as I could. And then before I'm going to stick down our other pieces of paper, I am going to blend the edges just for a little bit more contrast, especially because this has a white yellow pattern. So with the white, I do feel like it's maybe very light, and then I feel like when you ink up the edges, it just creates a bit more contrast. So I'm going to use the honey butter ink from Stampin' Up. This is starting to get a little bit dry, so I need to re-ink this, but I'm just going to take this along the edge. Okay, I was inking up these edges, but I feel like you just don't see it enough, and I don't have a yellow dark enough. I'm just looking behind me where my inks are, but I don't have it yellow dark enough so it would really contrast against the paper. It just gives a very, very faint difference, but I feel like maybe because my ink is getting dry as well, it's just not creating enough of a difference for it to really be noticeable. Kind of what I had in my mind. I'll show you. You can see the difference with the other side. Now it does create just like one yellow edge. Actually, I do feel like that makes a little bit of a difference. So I might quickly do the other side as well. And just ink all around. And that just fills up actually just all this white space. Yeah, I think just my ink is drying up a little bit. That's why it's not as bright. Okay, that's good. And then I'm going to do the same with the green color, and I'm going to use the New England Ivy. This is an old close to my heart color, so I'm going to just take another blender brush and do the same thing and go all around, just because this does create a little bit more contrast on the paper, especially because we're also going to use that shimmer strip. You do want that contrast. See, this you do see better. So I'm going to go all around, and then we'll stick it down and add our shimmer strip, but I'll do this off camera and just go all around the edges just to create that extra level of contrast. Okay, so I inked up these edges so you can see now it contrasts really good with the yellow gingham paper. So I'm going to stick that down right here, and so I'm going to stick the yellow piece down, but then we do want to add our shimmer piece. I'm just going to add some glue to the flip side. Okay. And I only want a little piece of the white, so around, I think, 1/2 inch. That'll be enough. Oops. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to take this, and right now I'm just gonna take a pencil and draw just little markings where I want this to go, because I don't want this to stick out completely. I think I wanted to maybe a little bit further. I want it around, because I don't want too much of the, like, I just want this like slightly poking out. So I'm just gonna do it, sorry about that, just gonna do it right here. So I'm going to, and I'm not gonna mat this just because I don't think this is straight. Just because on the yellow, I don't think it's gonna be noticeable at all that this is not entirely opaque. So let me just put this down here. Oops. Okay. And I'm just gonna follow the gingham, sorry, as my kind of straight line of reference. Hopefully that'll work. I think I'm already pulling it too much. That's about right. All right, let me cut that off right here. Okay. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks about right. I just want that just like slightly poking up. I'll raise it a little bit higher just so you can see, but that looks really nice. I like how that looks. So I'll do the same on the other side. I might just hold this down because I do want this to be really even. So I'm actually going to take my ruler and see how much we have approximately. So that's right here. So I feel like this needs to be moved over a little bit. Just want to make sure I have enough peeking out that I still feel like it adds value, which I do feel like it does, and I don't want the shimmer piece to be too noticeable. So I really like that. So to have it to come out right there, let me just go from the other side. So we want it right there. This is not really sticky, so there's a little bit of give to it if I'm not entirely correct. I think that looks about right. Okay, let me cut that off. And you can use whatever shimmer strip. There's also just the shimmer paper you could cut up. This is just something I still had lying around. Let me just see if that looks good. Yeah, that looks really nice. I really like how that looks. So I'm going to actually take some stronger tape, because with this shimmer, like the fabric of the, or the texture of the shimmer strip, it's very hard to make your paper stick down to it. So I'm just taking my Scotch tape roll, which is actually called tape glider. There we go. And then that should be enough. All right. Now this is a little bit less forgiving, the tape, so I do want to get this straight. There we go. Good. Oh, scooch this up just a little. Hang on, let me move this up. Sorry for, see that the camera is shaking. Let me stabilize that a little bit. going to pull that up just a tad because I feel like there's a little bit of white at the top. That looks really nice. So I'm just gonna hold it up so you can see it better, but see how that like shimmer strip just has a really tiny bit of the shimmer strip is poking out, and I think that looks really, really nice. So yeah. All right, so I think that's our base done for the papers. So for our paper, for our photos, I think we're just gonna add some of this wood grain paper. I'm kind of like debating, I'm still like peeking next to me for this pink, but that's just going to be way too much. Or this, if I do want to do like a little bit more of a, I think, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to flip this around. I think I do prefer this just because it has that warm element that works really well with the yellow. Let me see if there's anything else in the paper pack, but I think I like this. So I'm gonna grab my borders real quick and see if I can create something here at the bottom just to help, or even just all around, just to make this element stand out a little bit better. I've actually gone ahead when I was really looking at the page and made this strip with the green flowers much bigger. So I just used the previous piece that we had, stuck it down on a piece of white cardstock so I can use it for another project. And then I just split this one piece of yellow cardstock into two pieces and moved this up just because I feel like now it covers a bigger piece of our page. And it was definitely with this photo mat that I was feeling like, let me turn this around, like it was maybe just kind of falling in the background. There was a lot of white space. So I've used one of these borders from an old Close to My Heart pack. Where is it? Let me grab it. It looks like this, just right here at the bottom. And I was maybe thinking of putting it at the top as well, but I might just keep that simple since I want to put a title up there. And I think it will look better if we just have that squared off piece. So I'm going to put this right here. I'm just going to flip it around and move this around a little bit. I might put another mat down at the bottom of this just for another level of color. And then I'm also going to ink up these edges just for a little bit more contrast. So let me go ahead and take one of the, I think I'm just going to take Acorn. And just, I'm just going to use this honey butter one I was using. Ink up these edges just so there's a little bit more contrast against the white paper. Okay. So tomorrow the demonstrators can go ahead and pre-order all the new products, well, in exclusion of a couple of products like the scrapbook kits. They are still pending and they'll be released on the same day as when the new catalog is available for everyone. So definitely keep an eye out on my channel for videos where I show a couple of the new products that I got, and I'll also just make some videos creating a couple scrapbook layouts with them. I also want to create some cards. I was actually thinking when I was pulling up the piece that we had here originally that would look really pretty on just like a card base for the front. So I might just at the end of this video just pull that piece up and show you what that would look like on a card, because I think that would look really pretty with the shimmer piece, the shimmer strips as well. Okay, I'm gonna leave, or maybe do a little bit here but not too much. It's very soft. Okay, right, that looks so good. Let me do do a little bit more here. Okay, so close this up, put that aside. So that looks really nice because now that is very contrasting against the bottom. So the picture will go right here. And then for embellishments, I had a couple of ideas. I have the Spotlight on Nature dies, these beautiful circles, and I was maybe thinking of combining it with, this is the Lake Life. This was a stamp and die set that Close to My Heart introduced with Stampin' Up quite a while ago, but it has this beautiful stamp called Let's Take the Scenic Route, which I felt like we were definitely doing. So I wanted to see if that fits in one of these bigger circles, because that would be a nice element to add. Let me just take the simple one. I think, oh yeah, perfect. This would work, because I was scared this was a little bit too big for the largest circle. The other one I have is Documenting the Day, which I also think would look really nice, and just having one fine, and then I would fussy cut out the day in, I don't know what color I would do yet, because I think I want to actually bring back a little bit more of the yellows, so I might just do day and use my Stampin' Pad just to make sure that it's very opaque, and then fussy cut that out and stick that here. I might even do both of them and just have the circle die here at the bottom. The only thing I want to avoid is I do want to make sure we see enough of this flower pattern, so this might just be a little bit too large, I feel like. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp out One Fine Day, or A Perfect Day. I'm not too sure yet which one I want to use. And then I will compare with just adding one of the circle dies. I have a couple other dies in mind that I might just add, and I also want to add a couple of tiny flowers. So I have another stamp set here, which is called Country Flowers. And I love the little flowers that's part of this die set, and it has these beautiful little sprigs and leaves. I used this on another layout too, and I thought that looked really nice. So I'm definitely going to sprinkle some around this frame, and kind of depending on where the title comes, and if I use the circle die, I might just add that as like a cluster. So let me scooch all this to the side, and then I'm going to flip this around because I want to use the spongy side, especially for this day, but I might actually use my Stampin' Pad just because I'm going to go ahead and stamp this in yellow, and I don't feel like that's going to be bright enough. I was thinking green, but I don't want the green to be too much. So let me go ahead and take some of my ink pads and see what colors might work and what I want to do, or how I want to stamp this day text, just to make sure that it does appear. So I might also do, we can also do a perfect in yellow and then day in green, just so that one really pops. So let me go ahead and take some of my ink pads and see what color we can use. Okay, so I've gathered a couple of embellishments just so we can see what fits nicely on the page. So let me bring the page back. Let me actually flip this around. So here we go. I am going to mat our picture on some yellow cardstock. I was first thinking of something with like a little bit of a pattern, but with the gingham and the flowers, I just felt like it was getting a little bit too much. So let me already adhere that down. And I still want the yellow to be one of the primary colors, and I felt like if I didn't mat it, it was almost starting to feel like it was getting a little bit lost. So I feel this brings it back here for the photos. All right, so we're going to have that on this piece. I'm not going to add any more borders. I think that's fine. And I've kind of gathered a couple of potentials, so to speak. So this is the Let's Take the Scenic Route. So that's from that one set. What's this actually called? Lake Life, the scrapbooking set from Close to My Heart that was introduced with Stampin' Up. I do really love the combo. I wish this was a little bit smaller, but with the text, I actually had to take this size of a circle. I do think I'm going to ink it up with some honey butter to bring in some of that yellow, and I might want to do some stamping or something to add up this circle because it's a little bit bare. And I was actually thinking I have some like circle stamps from here. I have the, oh, these are gonna be too small. I thought that would be cute. I do have these little flowers in here. Let me see if that would work. This is Circle Sayings. This is an old set from Stampin' Up. And there's like flowers in here, beachy type things. And I'm wondering if this little like flower header cluster thing, oh no, that's a little bit too small of a circle. That would have looked really cute though. I do also like this. It almost makes it seem like little rays from a sunshine. This might be cute, like here at the top and the bottom. I don't know. I'm going to work on this because I might, depending on what I add, as in my flower embellishments, this might change. So I'm definitely for sure going to add the day title. I'm going to do something here overlaying the letters a little bit. And then have it on 3D foam, because if you would just stick it down like this, you know, the letters are kind of going to be a bit lost. By the way, all of the green stamping I did with the New England Ivy, which is also a close to my heart color. And so I'm kind of debating. So either I want to go in the direction of these teeny little flowers, which was from the Stampin' Up set, and I dyed them. I die cut them in yellow and white, and then I could do something like have a little bit more of blending around these and then add them to the circle. Could do that, or we could just scratch the circle altogether, which I do really like the sentiment. I wonder if we could like, because there's so much white. Nah, I don't know if I like that. But so I also die cut out these beautiful flowers from a set from Close to My Heart that they introduced. I think the full set is actually still in the Last Chance products. It's the Secret Garden set from Close to My Heart, and these dies are part of that, and they create the most like intricate looking flowers. And I would definitely still just change these a little bit so they have a little bit more texture and shape to it. But I do like that, and I was going to add some ink blending, some yellow ink blending, and just have like these bigger flowers around the picture, like right here. I also feel like that doesn't take away too much of this background print, but then I'm also like, is this enough? But what we also could do is then bring in just like the little flower, the yellow flowers, and have those scattered throughout. I think that would also look really, really cute. Like have the white flowers with just a little bit of yellow blending, and then have these little yellow flowers, and then some of these like little sprigs sticking out. I think that might work. I'm still kind of sad not to use this because I really like that sentiment. Let's see if I can do everything. So I would just have all of these. I don't know about that. That might be a bit much. Also, these flowers are quite large. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to create some texture into these. And if you're curious how I do that, let me grab one thing and I'll be right back. Okay, so I grabbed this little tool set. This is from Sizzix, and it comes in a box like this. And you have these little blender tools, for lack of a better use. What do they call it? They call it a stylus tool. There you go. And they have these little baubles at the end, and you can use these to shape your flowers. And all you do is you just put your flower down on the kind of foamy pad. You just make a big circle. With the smaller ones, it's actually easier, I would say. And you kind of just shape this however you want. By moving this around, you're creating, see how it's like shaping up like a little flower? Hang on. These bigger ones actually don't have a lot of experience. I'll show you for the smaller ones. So I'll take one of the smaller stylus tools, and then I might just work on this a little bit off camera and come back to you, but that's essentially what you would do. So for the smaller ones, it's really easy. All you do is you just turn around, and you see how beautifully that kind of comes together and creates a bit more of a texture, almost like a shape, so it just looks really nice on your page. Now, granted, some of this will flatten out when you put it in your album, but I still feel like for the ones I've done this in the past, it creates a little bit of lift and shadow on the page, so you do have still some of that will be visible in your album. So let me fiddle with these. I'm going to kind of shape these in, just moving my stylus around like I just showed you. And then I might already go ahead and use a little bit of the honey butter ink on these flowers very faintly, and then I'll be right back with the finished results, and then we can see what we want to add to the page and how it will look like. All right, so off camera, I've added the little bit of the ink blending, and I've also added the multi-dimensionals foam in between some of the layers just to create that extra dimension. And as you can see, this is such a beautiful, very intricate looking flowers. I can lift it up so you see that there's a little bit of that foam in between there, and I think that looks absolutely beautiful. And again, this is from the Secret Garden thin cuts. You can still get this on the Stampin' Up website. In fact, I think it's like 50% off for the full bundle. And these dies are included in that. And the paper set that comes with this is also really, really pretty. So these are the flowers. I also added these little bits of the white paper on this little sprig. That's also part of the set. And then there's also some leaves that come with it. And then I've also used that same stylus tool for all these little flowers to create that dimension. All right, so I've been kind of looking at the layout some more, and I've come to the conclusion that I do feel like this day title that we were maybe going to use, it's just a little bit too harsh. And in the yellow, it probably would just sink, it wouldn't be contrasting enough with the yellow background. And I actually really do want to use Let's Take the Scenic Route, which I'd stamped on a circle die. And I've added some of the honey butter to the edges, so we still create some of that contrast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scooch this over a little bit more, and I'm actually going to just adhere this down already, since we know we're definitely going to keep this on this mat. All right, so I'm going to put this on here. There we go. And then I feel like I want this somewhat more scooched in, not too much, because I don't want to take too much of the pattern paper away. So I think I like that, because what I was thinking is actually using this as the title. So there's a lot of just green space here. I don't want to take away too much of the photo either, but I really like how that looks. And then I was thinking of adding some of these beautiful little yellow flowers to this title circle. So like something like this, I think looks really, really pretty. And then I will also just add some dots. I found these in my stash from, they're still on the Stampin' Up website, the brushed brass butterflies. And they look really pretty. So I'm definitely going to add some of these at the end just for that. It also has a beautiful shine. And then I'm going to create a little cluster down here, or it's going to be a fairly large cluster because the flowers are a bit larger. I didn't want it flopped to the other side because it's just too much white on white, and I like how this looks. I might take this little sprig and add that to the title here, if I can get it to lay down, but that just gives us an idea where that's going to go. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty. And I'm going to take some of the yellow flowers and add to this little cluster. This also comes with some sprigs, some leaves. I'm going to add that here. And then this is another one that comes in the set. I'm going to add that here. Even though there's a little bit that falls into the colors here, I might make sure that it comes onto this brown paper so it's contrasting enough. And then I'm going to add some of these white flowers. These aren't going to really lay flat right now just because they have so much shape. I think I'm going to do like that. Might add a little one of these little guys here. Kind of like going not too far down. Oh, I like how that looks. That's pretty. And then I might add some flowers here. Do feel like we are creating a very open white space here. So I do want to add something. And I was looking at these pictures and we were taking a bike ride. So I was going through my stash to look for any stamps I had with bikes. And I came across two. I have the, let me see. This is called Moments That Matter, but this is just a very, very small little bike. And I wanted something that would fill this space up a little bit better. So I found the Enjoy the Ride scrapbooking set, which was also a close to my heart stamps and die cut or thin cut set that was released with Stampin' Up. I think it was maybe in the same month that the lake set was released. I'm not too sure. But I found this bike and I stamped it out in the same New England Ivy. And I just used one of the Stampin' Up Write It markers. I think it's in the color Pecan Pie, just to create a little bit more contrast. Just I colored literally on top of the green. And I think that looks really nice. And I want to add that right here. And I might do like the teeniest bit of a little bit of yellow blending right here. Like just, let me scooch this up and take the honey butter stamp and just take this. We'd use this for the blending of the paper here, so that's fine. Oh, I think this is going to be too harsh. Let me take a brush. Okay, that's going to be better, much softer, just like a blending brush. Again, really light, so I'm going to tap this off and just do a little bit right here, just so it's not too much of the white, just because the die does have a little bit of that white edge. I think that's all I'm going to do. I'm not too sure if that's even visible on camera, but you can see it in real life. It's just like the faintest yellow glow. And I'm just going to add that here. Yeah, I like that. That looks really cute. And then I'm just going to add a couple more of these flowers. Okay, I think that looks really nice. And then again, I might add some of these butterflies. So this is looking really good. I think I'm going to commit. The only thing I might add to this little circle right here were those little lines we were looking at, just because I do think that looks cute. So I'm going to stamp that in... I think I might do just the same green color and then have the flowers here. I think that looks good. Okay, so I'm going to stamp these little lines in the New England Ivy. I'm going to stick all this down because I do think this looks really nice in terms of embellishments. And then I'll be right back just to add our butterflies and any finishing touches if we think that's necessary. Okay, so all the embellishments have been adhered to the page. So let me raise this light for a minute. So we've kind of stuck everything down just where we had shown it. I've used a lot of foam tape glue dots just because I feel like it adds more of the dimension. I think that looks really nice. And then the only thing I also added were these, I don't know if these actually have a name. They're called iridescent foil gems. And they're these beautiful see-through gems that have a little bit of gold sparkle running throughout. And I've added a little gem to every flower because I just think it adds a little bit more sparkle. Also, I didn't like the cuts in the middle, so I think this just looks a lot nicer. So yeah, I think that looks great. I think the only thing I still want to add, and I'm not 100% sure if this is going to be too much, but I do really like these, are the brushed brass butterflies. Oops, two already fell off. Let me see. Oh, these are really cute though. So I will add this. I don't know if this will fit. Let me just move this little guy. Don't want to rip the page though. These glue dots are really strong, so I hope. And then if we can put one of these like little guys up here. Yeah, that looks really cute. And then one here. I hope these are like the glue is strong enough under these butterflies. I'm not sure. And then so I like that there. I'm thinking I might only do it there and maybe just one down here. I think the big ones are quite large, so I might just do one smaller one. Then again, let me see if I take one of these bigger ones. Oh no, I kind of like the bigger ones here. put that right there. Okay, and I'm not, I think, gonna add any down here just because unless it is noticeable on the green, actually it kind of is, so I might just add one here. And that's it. I think that looks really pretty. Let me hold that up a little bit closer so you guys can see. So I've added two up here in this like little title cluster. And then I added one down here with the bike and then one here. I feel like here it's just gonna go lost, but I think that looks really, really pretty. I'll definitely take some still shots of the layout to put on my Instagram with some good lighting so you guys can see all the little details. But yeah, this is the finished page using the Lovely Garden, did I missay that? The Lovely Garden collection. Let me double check that that's right. Yes, Lovely Garden collection. We use the green with, this is from the other collection with the yellow paper. So I do love that. I do think these combine really nicely. We used some yellow shimmer strips. This is from the Secret Garden from Close to My Heart, which you can still buy on the Stampin' Up website under the Last Chance products. And then a couple items from my stash. And then these little flowers were from, let me double check. They're from a country flower set from Stampin' Up. I really, really love the dies in this set. They're really pretty because they also have these beautiful little sprigs, which we didn't use, but they're gorgeous. So yeah, I hope you guys love this layout. Please comment, like this video, and subscribe. I will be posting more videos in the future, probably also with some new products that I've ordered off of the new catalog. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.